Folks, you're very welcome to the second edition of Soundshack49. It's good to talk. Tonight we have a well-renowned Irish musician and we speak about his new album, Detour. He regales us with stories from Greece to Prosperous in County Kildare and everything else that goes along with that. Folks, Mr. Jude Shields is in with us tonight. We had a great chat. This was recorded before Christmas. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this one and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you.
It's been a few years, Aidan. I think last time I saw you was down in Christie's in Prosperous. We used to do the Sunday afternoon jazz show there with the late great Barry Cluskey from Cloud Dove and Paul Moore, and also another great jazz musician who passed away sadly was Brian Dunnan, flute player. That was a great Sunday we used to do.
Yeah, and it used to be fabulous. Like Dowlan's is a great spot, Christie's, and I could have Dowlan's where I used to play myself regularly. They were fabulous venues, and Prosperous is such a small little town, but yet great music heritage and a lot of really good musicians around. I'm going to be speaking to a gentleman you might know and having a chat with him next week, Mr. Frankie Lane. Jude, a wealth of talent around this area. So the jazz, are we still at that? Or I know the last time we did have a chat, you were out and launching an album with the So-Called.
That's correct. And so you might have been at the launch gig in Whelan's.
Yeah, I think it was.
Sorry. So that's been since Christie's. So so after playing jazz for a while and a few other things, I decided I want to put together like a heavy rock band, and so I had some songs written, which I actually wrote most of them in Prosperous when I lived there at the time, and just made a few phone calls to, it was basically myself and the drummer, Noel Martin Jr. We put down the tracks, recorded the tracks, and then we got we did 2 sessions, 8 hours maybe, studio time, and we got 2 albums out of those 2 sessions, and like 1 week after the other. Actually, the second session, probably most of the album. 2 albums came from 1 session. First one was only a bit of a warm-up. Yeah. So we we released the first album on YouTube only, I think. And then the second album came a little bit later, and a German record label from Berlin, Sony Records. Don't look for them. They're not there anymore. But at the time, they were releasing a few albums a year. They actually wanted to put it out for us and do it like a vinyl, gatefold, sleeve, and colored vinyl, all that sort of thing. So we actually got a record deal of sorts. And then they end up, closing down soon after that. So not sure that was on us or just the...
No, definitely it wasn't you. No, geez, because that's you know the music business. There's loads of other. So the So-Called, are you still doing stuff with the guys, or what's the story? Or
it's kind of on extended hiatus at the moment. I mean, I played with Noel, the drummer, recently. We did a gig with John Querney out in Bray, and a few gigs with my father in the Haute Blues.
The blues thing, yeah, the blues.
Noel didn't do that gig with us. Grant was with us that night, but we did the Phil Lynott birthday party out in the Harbour Bar. Not the Harbour Bar. No, God, I can't remember.
I can't. The Bloodstream.
Bloody Stream.
Dude, we got there. Did you see a lot of these places, yeah.
The great thing is that the next week, John Querney, who was playing bass with us, John, he's playing blues around Dublin for years and years. He got myself and Noel in to play the Harbour Bar in Bray. So we're out at the Harbour Bar with John waiting for Noel, and Noel's, it's getting close to the stage time and we haven't seen any sign of Noel. Trying to ring him. And then we finally got through to him, but he's in the Harbour Bar in Hoth with his
the other side of the city, yeah.
So John told him the gig was in I don't know if John said it's in Bray or Hoth or not. He didn't say it was in Hoth, but he said it was the Harbour Bar, and Noel assumed it was. At least he didn't have to rush.
Yeah, well, that can happen because I played with guys over the years, and we were in Dolan's in Limerick, and the guys were in the Keys in Galway, but we were actually in the Keys in Galway the following night on the Saturday night, and they got it mixed up, so they were down, and actually we got then I injured myself, and the same thing happened again. We were meant to be somewhere in Belfast, and 2 of the guys then went to Letterkenny, but I actually had speaking of that, it's getting a bit morbid now, but we had Noel Bridgman standing in for us that night. I got Noel to stand in for us, and he went up, but the guys, they pulled off the gig, and this was a Rolling Stones tribute, so we got it there.
that the Stones tribute with Adrian or
Yeah, with Adrian, yeah. So
I remember Nick
the
Jagger.
Ruby Tudors. Yeah, Nick Tagger, yeah. I'm sure you remember there was no motorways or anything. We were traveling away. I'm sure, we could talk about Noel for a bit, but great thing. So we had the So Called, and then I met you. I think it was around the process time, and you were telling me you were going to Greece.
Yeah, well, actually, my wife is Greek, so we have spent a bit of time in Greece and a bit of time in Ireland, and moving back
Brilliant.
and forth at different times. Yeah, so I've been over and living in Piraeus a few times, and I got to know some musicians over that direction. Play a bit of music around
You
Athens.
did gigs over there.
Did
I
quite a
remember
few.
over there.
I did one gig in a place in Athens called the Megaron, which is like the national concert hall of Athens and Greece, and got to play with guy from who played with one of the classic King Crimson lineups, David Cross.
Yes.
He played violin, and David Jackson, who was the sax player from Van der Graaf Generator. So I got to play with these two guys at a gig over there, and
Brilliant.
the guy who's responsible for all that, Chris Dassanopoulos, he's a Greek drummer. Noel Bridgman's age or my father's generation. Chris is like a God, he's an incredible guy. But you see, Chris, he's not tiny, but he's a smaller guy, skinny,
Huh.
and you think he doesn't look like a drummer. He doesn't look like Cozy Powell style or this type of physique. And he starts playing, and it's like, it's like it's incredible. It's just the power, and the drums are just like,
isn't it great to see
ferocious.
the power?
Yeah.
No, we've come across some great drummers over the years, and it's great watching them. It's great. It's an art. As regards the particular gig, so what was the setup like? So you had the band, your bass, drums, guitar. You were saying the saxophone or violinist? Sorry,
Yeah,
violinist.
So the lineup, we had Chris Stasnopoulos on drums, and he composed the set. The songs that we play were all his original compositions. A guy called Nick Vardis on bass, an old friend of Chris from Glyfada, another part of Athens. David Cross on violin. David Jackson on the sax, but he can play like a Roland Kirk, like two saxes at the same time, and a soprano and alto, or I can't.
Yeah,
incredible.
These guys are, yeah.
And also we had a piano player. I'm trying to remember Nikos. Trying to remember his surname. I can't remember the piano player's surname, but he was.
Was it sort of a mixture between sort of rock or jazz or a bit of?
It was kind of fusion, like progressive rock fusion with keyboard. No, we didn't have keyboards at the time. But yeah, progressive rock fusion.
Yeah, so like King Crimson Dream Theater, that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that like
it's just a bit brilliant. And so you spent a bit of time over there, did a few gigs, and then so you're between Athens and Ireland then.
Yeah. Now I'm in. I've this is my second time to live in County Leitrim. I was living in Drumshanbo for a couple of years. Now I'm in Drummond.
Drummond is a beautiful spot.
Yeah,
it's actually to really love vintage sort of railway system over there around there, not too far from you.
Yeah, that's the museum.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, I've been down there a few times, and I've been down the Shannon, so I pulled into Drummond Harbour a few times, different types, and it's lovely. Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world. So I know you're just after finishing another album, and now at the minute you're doing a bit of country.
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in country music. It's a tough one to explain. Like I love classic American country. And this is going back a long time. I can't even remember how I think I bought on a record shop in an album with the Hank Williams 40 Greatest Hits double record when I was about 15 or 16 years old. And I used to listen to that all the time, like endlessly.
Yeah.
And that just led me to, that opened the classic country world for me.
It's massive. The scene is massive. I'm not just saying that because you're here, but some of the stuff I listen to the Getaway, One Way Ticket, your songs. I love that type of country. I love the slides. There's sort of bluegrassy bits to it. There's a bit of everything. Unfortunately, our type of Irish country here, I'm not a particular fan of it, but you're the real American, the old stock country, it was very good. I was very pleased to hear that, Jude.
There's a few guys in Ireland who are kind of kind of following this path of, you've got the country and Irish in, which is great, but it's there's a formula there, and it's about,
Yeah.
the people want to go out and dance to the music and, have a good time. The type of country music I love is the more introspective style, where you got, guys singing about stuff that means a bit to them, and they sing it in a
Yeah.
certain way. It's not
Yeah.
really for dancing, it's more for listening, like Guy Clark, or, Townes Van Zandt, or these
Yeah.
guys. Nicky Newbury, I love he's one of my favorites. And then
But
Waylon Jennings and Willie
so look,
Nelson, Merle
Willie
Haggard.
and Johnny Cash. Yeah, some of these guys are unbelievable musicians. Some of these
Yeah, I
guys,
mean,
I've heard you playing guitar. You're an unbelievable player, and then you can play these genres, which is a feat in itself. But when you say some of these guys' names, a lot of the country guys would always come into it. You were saying it there.
I know it's yeah,
So from a young age, it was the country was a big influence on you.
Yeah, like, I was a huge Bob Dylan fan when I was a teenager, and from Bob Dylan you can listen to like Nashville Skyline, or there's country songs all through his career. John Wesley Harding album, or Blood on the Tracks, or Planet Waves. You'll hear bits of country songs in there, and pedal steel and violin, and, well, even Self Portrait, which is not one of his more critically acclaimed records, but that's a record I love as well. So I got into through Dylan and Hank Williams, and then Merle Haggard, and other guys, Hank Snow, or listen to Jimmy Rogers. You just get sucked into it.
I'm listening to a lot of Loudon Wainwright at the minute.
Yeah,
So, and some of his stuff, like the songs there, like Cardboard Boxes, like it's about him moving out of his house. There's a brilliant riff to it. If you haven't heard it, have a listen to it. It's brilliant.
That guy's such a great writer. He's
yeah,
incredible observational songwriter. Like, he's got that kind of thing going on, where he sings about things that he notices that most people would kind of see something interesting and then just forget about it, but he takes that one.
I actually have a recording. I have it here somewhere beside me, an album, but he's just two acoustics, and the guy beside him, then he plays mandolin and ukulele, and the two of them are playing, but it's still great. And just a really such a mix of songs and that type of stuff.
John Prine is another guy. I think one of his contemporaries. They were the new Dylans of the time, with Springsteen, and there's a few other guys, but they're all great songwriters and performers.
There was the super group.
These guys I haven't mentioned Christofferson. So if you're talking,
he was in the group. What were the name?
Highwaymen.
The Highwaymen.
I'm guessing the Highwaymen.
That was it. Yeah, the Highwaymen. And like some lineup, unfortunately, we've lost a few of them, but the Highwaymen were unbelievable.
Only Willie's.
Some of the songs, So we had Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, Chris Christopherson. Am I missing somebody?
That's the Merle Haggard. No, lads. No, Merle wasn't in there.
Wasn't in it, no.
No.
Yeah. And then you're talking about Kenny Rogers as well.
Kenny, I like a lot of Kenny stuff. Cara de County, and just dropped in to see what can do.
The scene over in America for that music is just absolutely massive. Some great female artists coming in. I actually really like Hannah Montana. What's her name?
That's that's Billy Ray Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus. Yeah,
so
she had a type of a country album, and she did Jolene, but an acoustic version of it. But it was excellent. I find her a great singer. We're saying all these artists, they're there now. Yeah, the father. So the country scene, and so I want to get on to your new album. So we spoke about the first album you do. If you want to introduce it there, and what's the name? I'll bang it up anyway after, Jude. The
album I released last year was called One More Last Time, because I think I wrote a song called One More Last Time. It doesn't make any sense.
You had One Way Ticket, Drinking and Thinking on that. Is the Getaway on that?
Yeah,
on that album. So there on them. Yeah, sorry.
There's a few others on it. Blue Sky Longing and
Drinking and Thinking. I think I'm going to be favoritism. I like that.
Well, I don't even drink myself. I just wrote.
I know. Yeah, you never did.
I was thinking, there's a lot of drinking songs been written, and there's a motivation behind the person drinking in the song, their dog died, or their mother, someone's gone to prison. I just thought,
Yeah.
in Ireland, most of the guys I know who like to drink just like to drink because that's what they want to do. They don't have any.
I love a pint, Jude, as you know. I don't have to have a set routine. I just like sitting down. But the main thing I don't actually drink that much anymore, and I've got
Okay.
to tell you why. Because of these fucking things, these jokes. You go
God
into a
almighty.
pub and people are coming into you going, "Oh, have a look at this, have a look at this," or you'd ask a question and somebody go, "Here, I'll look it up," and it drives me up the wall. So I don't. I just go in. I'd watch a football game. I love sports, and I'd go in and I'd go in and sit down, have a pint, and watch the sports. That's what I enjoy doing. Or
Yeah,
there
yeah.
you go.
Ah, fair play. That's good to, it's,
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of, I think I'll see it around here in, Leitrim, Roscommon, that the pubs are, there's not so many pubs around. And I see a lot of guys who look like they should be in the pub, sitting in the petrol station cafe drinking coffee in the afternoon.
yeah.
It's kind of,
It's changed massively. Like
yeah,
you were going to these small towns, you'd be in O'Mara's pub or wherever it may be, and it'd be a small little lounge, but there could be 200 people in it,
yeah,
wedged,
yeah.
and you trying to get the gear in, trying to get it out, because
Oh, don't
it's just a
remind me of that
nightmare.
stuff.
Dude, wasn't a shocker, wasn't it? I started off with a big drum kit, and then I ended up. If I could have just brought a bower on, I would have, just
I have
because it
memories of
was just
the Grand Hotel in Killarney on a Friday night. That was the worst gig to get in and
the
out of.
worst.
And
Yeah,
I had more than one Me Too moment doing that carry out.
yeah,
You're carrying big, 18-inch bass
yeah.
bins and two punters, and most of them completely knocked.
Yeah, and they want to talk to you, and you're carrying a big load of gear. There was the Voodoo Lounge in Letterkenny. I used to hate the load in there for some
Oh,
reason
yeah, yeah.
because you finish and then you're going out the back. And then in Cove, the hotel in the
Commodore?
middle, Commodore, up 2 flights of stairs.
Yeah,
Absolute nightmare. And then, it was a real old hotel, up 2 flights of stairs. And there was a few others around. We were a few in Dublin. I used to play in the jeez, I can't even name it now. It was on Essex Gate Street there. There was a pub in the corner, and it was the venue was on the top floor. But yeah, and when you're bringing gear, and like we were a 3-4 piece band, it's a series of a full PA, up, and it was a killer.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
that's
Those ones.
getting old now. That's why my knees are whacked, I think. But
Me too,
so
actually.
listen,
That's why
when
that's one
when
problem.
you were growing up, you had lots of major influences around you. So was music always the thing, or was there anything else?
Yeah,
Because I know,
well,
like, I come from a building background, but I stayed away from the building, So
yeah. Well, yeah, now that I think about it, you've got I'm the least well-known musician in my family after my brother Matthew and my older brother Matthew and my father. So having both of them around was, you couldn't escape from music when I was a
yeah,
kid. Father was always playing piano. Brother was out walking around with the long blonde hair and looking as cool
yeah.
as they could.
Back in the day, yeah,
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 with these cowboy boots on and you know, it's the playing was incredible, and
yeah.
so yeah, I just got the bug on that. Maybe when I was 10, 11 years old. It's not like I started playing when I was 5 or 6 or 7. It kind of kicked in a bit later, but once it kicked in, there's no going back. That's it.
And the two boys, were they sort of hard on you, taskmasters, or were they sort of, here, now listen, this is a better way, or were they sort of saying,
No,
you
no,
know,
they weren't hard on me at all. My
yeah,
father, yeah, he still thinks like and he is in a lot of ways, he's kind of a formidable personality, but in a lot of other ways, he's a pushover. More ways, he's a
yeah.
kind of a pushover. I think he was very easy on me when I was a kid and teenager, learning how to play. When I was starting to learn how to play guitar, he didn't, it was very kind of fairly laid back, but made a bit of progress and started off in the band when I was 14 or so. So
Like, that must have been fairly tough. You're thrown onto in the deep end. Your dad wouldn't have been, or Matthew wouldn't have been playing to, 8 or 9 people. There would have been a fair crowd there. Was it an appearance on the Late Late Show, Jude? Wasn't there?
it was around that time,
It
but
was, yeah,
the truth is, Aidan, I wasn't, anyway accomplished. You know, I was just in the right family at the right times. Took me a few more years to actually become, a reasonable guitar player. But at that time, it was just like you do a few things and thrash around and, play the guitar in the back of your neck and try and show off. And it's funny because I kind of went completely the opposite direction as I got older, and I'm the least flashy kind of performer you could ever see, probably. But
But the
back
quiet
then
man in the back,
I had
Jude.
to make up for my shortcomings as a musician with
But
some other.
you're the quiet man in the back. And listen, I'm going to tell punters now if they're listening, just have a listen to some of the stuff on the albums. We're going to be putting links up to all of this so you can make your mind up. I think you're being very humble, which is always a nice trait, my friend. Always a nice trait. But you know, the other thing then is you went into songwriting.
Yes.
So did that come easy?
It always felt like it should come easy, which is why I kind of got into it. It's like, yeah, I can write a song. And then you start writing a song and suddenly nothing's happening. So it's a bit strange. Writing the songs seems like it's going to be a lot easier than it actually becomes. But if you knew how hard it was going to be, you probably wouldn't even give it a shot. And then other occasions like that Drinking and Thinking song you mentioned, I probably wrote in about 3 minutes, scribble it out, and then there's a just simple.
And what about the riff for that, Jude?
The riff for that.
I love it. Oh,
now
it's a great number.
That riff was much later, but that's like a Buddy Holly sort of thing, you know. That like that'll be the day intro.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be the day. So it's I just took that and slightly changed it a little, and it sort of works at the start of the song.
Yeah, like we were speaking about country stars. You know, I mentioned Dolly Parton. She wrote, what was it, Jolene and I Will Always Love You in an hour or something.
Yeah,
in the back of a caravan or trailer, as they called them. That was amazing. Like, but so Drinking and Thinking, 3 minutes. There we go, folks.
To go back, it's not always that straightforward, and you know, that kind of. You just wait for those moments, but you don't come along that often where you get a song handed to you in your subconscious. But you know, that's one example of what that happened.
Yeah, I'm sure you're a Beatles fan. I'm convinced you are anyway. But
yes.
Like lovely Rita, Meter Maid, just came about from a ticket. The Beatles, and then you woke up, got out of bed. This type of thing, it's brilliant. The lads would arrive in. I have this air, but the Let It Be documentary, I remember coming in, and I actually got emotional when George Harrison, who I love George Harrison. He's probably my favourite Beatle. I know I was saying that, but I love them all. But when he came in with something, I don't know, do you remember that in the documentary? And he says, "Have this," but I was going, "Jeez." Like here it is. Here's the birth of something, you know. So do you get that moment you're sitting in a coffee shop and something would walk by, a truck would drive by with Barney's Waste Disposal or something on it, and you go, "Here's the song." Do you get any of them moments?
No.
No, you can't use that Barney's Waste Disposal. Don't use that, Jude. I'm on copyright if you do.
Okay. No, I'm trying to think. That Bob Dylan did have a lyric. I think. God, what's this? It's on Highway 61 where he says, "I need a dump truck baby to unload my heart" or something.
Unload my heart, brilliant.
That's as close as I can get to.
That's as close, yeah. But it's
from
great.
a Buick 6, no, or maybe some of the earlier albums.
Yeah, it's all the more. And you know what? We'll finish talking, and all this stuff will come back to us. You know, we'll finish talking. So then you're 16, 17. You're on the road then for a good while.
Yeah.
You know, was there anything else besides the music, like any sports or anything like that? Was there anything like football?
I love the football for sure, man. I'm crazy about football. And I love watching boxing whenever I can. The big fights. I've never got into UFC. My dad loves the UFC, but I'm not so much into UFC. But I love a good boxing fight. Whenever the big ones are on, I'll be watching them, or I'll watch a bit of I like watching the undercards as well and getting to know them.
And who would be, if you were to name 3 of them now at the minute, your sort of favorite boxers of all time, who would you throw in that mix? I'm putting you on the spot, but
yeah, well, from watching old footage, and maybe it's not fair, but let's say the first real fight I ever watched in my life that I can remember was Barry McGuigan. And I remember watching Barry McGuigan. I had broke my arm playing football in the schoolyard.
Yeah.
And we used to play in the basketball court, and I got whatever. And I had to stay in hospital overnight with a bunch of lads, they all in their, I was 12 or in their 30s and 40s. And we had a TV, like a little portable TV. And there was a fight on that night. And I think it was Barry McGuigan. It wasn't Pedroza. It was one of these other fights, which I can't remember. But we were all watching the fight. And the lads were so great to me, So after that, I was just hooked. I'd watched the Pedroza fight before in we watched that in school. They used to show us the fights in the school life.
And then, sure, yeah, you had Barry, and then you had ones coming in, and we had a lot of,
I loved Bernard Dunn and Andy
Bernard
Lee.
Dunn, yeah, Andy Lee, yeah. Then we have like sure, Katie's been unbelievable, Jude. Like some of our fights, a great inspiration for people out there, for everybody, I think, young girls and whatever.
Yeah, I think the biggest, I've watched a lot of Katie's fights, and I actually think the 2-minute rounds are go against her. I think that's her biggest fight in some of those fights is the 2-minute rounds, because
she only seems to be getting the upper hand. The next minute there's the bell going.
It's not just that, but I think if the rounds were a minute longer, her boxing skills would be more, would come through much more. But these 2-minute rounds are just complete, wars. She's been in so many wars with
the trilogy there. Serrano is just but like she's fabulous, unbelievable,
But she's the best female boxer out there who's ever been, and but I think because those fights with the short rounds they just go, there's no, it's hard to say in a 3-minute round, boxers have to take a step back and get their, have some recovery time, but the 2-minute round, it's just full on intensity.
I watched the fight recently, just Tuesday or Wednesday evening, but it was Manny Pacquiao, but ring dominance.
He's great. Pac-Man.
He was phenomenal.
I'm trying to remember.
And talk about being able to take a punch, but the thing was, it was just a ring. I think he covered every, if you could say, corner of that ring, every inch of it. He was unbelievable. The stamina, Jude, and this wasn't in his early days. This was sort of coming near the latter end of his career. I can't remember who the fight was, but it went through 12 rounds anyway. But he was, I think the guy was bad mouthing his trainer, Freddie Roach, who was Jude, you correct me on this. I think he had he'd some type of disease, didn't he? The same thing as Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, I actually saw him he was fighting. What was there was a great fight there last week at Cork lad, and I'm trying to remember his name. Freddie was training him, and that he's still there in the ring between the rounds, giving out the instructions. I'm trying to remember that Cork lad's name. He fought the son of Vargas, Fernando Vargas Jr. Dominated him. He was brilliant. And I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but he was
the same. I can't remember this guy but this guy was mocking Freddie Roach.
Yeah.
But Manny just brought him through the 12 rounds, and I think he actually broke his jaw and his eye socket, so for bad mouthing Freddie. But he was a phenomenal fighter. You have Floyd Mayweather, then you go back to the greats. I sort of grew up around the time of the 80s when you had Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, these guys, and out of them all, I'd probably edge it towards Sugar Ray. I thought he was
I saw Sugar Ray in Neeson's once, and he was doing a book signing, and I had no idea the book signing was happening in Neeson's that day. And then I'm just standing there looking at magazines, and suddenly Sugar Ray Leonard walks past me.
No way.
God, that's Sugar Ray Leonard.
Gee, Mark. Yeah, I say you were kicking yourself, were you? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I was just like, that's it. That's enough for me. I should have went in the queue. I know it was a massive queue for his book signing, but I wasn't in that space at the time. But just actually seeing him, I was delighted.
Yeah, it's somebody. But boxing, I know a lot of people don't like the sport, but look at it, it's a phenomenal sport, and look at, we've had some great fighters over the years. There's a good few coming up, which is always good to see. People go back to me about boxing, and they go back to the great days, Ali and that, and George Foreman. Sure, I actually watched a documentary on Netflix with the Gypsy King. I found it actually. I watched one, and then I went.
Do you know what the crazy thing about Tyson Fury is? I remember seeing him in the stadium when there was a time he was going out with the Irish flag and the Irish gear on and doing the whole and he went down to my father's version of the Fields of Athenry. That was his ring walk. Years later, he's as English as can be. But I think he's just it makes business sense. But
he's it was very funny in the documentary. If you watch it anyway, it's sort of living. It was like the thing they did with Ozzy Osbourne and a few others like that, living with Tyson Fury. He is ADHD and he sort of got bipolar, but the family very laid down. Like the wife, he's a very wealthy man. I think he's worth well over 100 million. But they still do the laundry. They go shopping with the family, and I found that so admirable. And Tyson himself went out and he was bringing the rubbish, emptying the bins and bringing them down to the local dump. You know, he was in the back of his truck, but he had a Ferrari there, but he still lives in the same place. He's very close family man. You know, he has his kids. But I enjoyed it. It's sort of a nice watch on a Sunday evening. It's on Netflix. Have a look at it. Check it out.
I have to see that. I remember watching some car program, Car SOS or something, and they were looking for, you know, they're fixing up old vintage cars from the 70s or 80s, and they're looking for a car radio, and they find the right car radio for sale somewhere in wherever. Where's he from? Not Manchester.
Morecambe, isn't it? Morecambe, yeah.
That's right. So they had it there. I knock on the door. Tyson Fury answers. They said, "I'm here about the car radio." He had it there in his, had it in his hand, and you know, that's for sure. Yeah.
Your dad is into the UFC, but you never took to that. I'm sort of the same. I never really took to it, you know.
Yeah, I just it's a bit, I don't know, gratuitous, the violence, and I don't like seeing guys on the ground getting hit, you know.
Yeah, no, that's Jude. That's what I don't like. Honestly, I don't. A fella's underneath you and you're pounding him with your elbows. I don't like that.
I like two guys standing up, you know, and
I never took to it. I don't mind it. I'll watch it. But anyway, so that's the thing. So a bit of boxing. You love soccer. Who would you shout for? I'm actually a Shelbourne supporter, so not too far.
I'm Bohemian, so
I know that. So because your dad used to play for Bowls, didn't he?
And my uncle played for Shells.
Did he? Yeah.
And my other uncle played for Drumcondra.
So we're going to Tala next Thursday to see them. They're playing in Tala Stadium in Shamrock Rovers ground. So myself and my daughter, we do go in. Unfortunately, then in the Premier League, we'd follow Tottenham, you know, and she was devastated when Harry went to Germany, you know, and we got rid of Harry. And Harry is a phenomenal player. I think he'd get his game with anybody, you know. He's doing really well there.
Well, he's kind of from Galway, but Harry's a great player.
There's a lot of it now. I find it hard. I love football, Jude. I love it. I find it hard to sort of watch it now. I just sit and watch a full game. That's why I said earlier on, 10 minutes ago, that I'd have a point, because sometimes you need it to watch it, because you have a guy there who's making 200 grand a week, and geez, he can't pass the ball 10 yards. And I guarantee you, if you spoke to your dad, he'd say to you, he would have been thrown off the park back then, you know, back in the day, if he couldn't do that. Roy Keane always says he was told by Brian Clough, pass the ball, control the ball, and run. That's all I want you to do, 3 things. And he turned out to be all right, didn't he? You know, but some of these guys, I think, as Keane says, you're more into your hair and your card and you're on Instagram than you're on anything else. But that's it. That's the way it's gone, unfortunately. But it's the way a lot of things have gone, you know.
Yeah, but for me, the one thing I don't like about the football these days is the VAR. And I miss the old days, the flow of the game, and you know, things go against you, but you're like, it's, you know, you accept it because it's happened. You know, once it happens, there's something you can. That's it. It's done. I like that part of football. Back
in the day, you're looking at players like, you know, Alan Shearer. Then you're seeing Cantona coming into the game. You're seeing these foreigners coming in, Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp. You know, they were Arsenal players, but still, I thought they were unbelievable.
They were. That was a great team. You know? Great team.
Yeah, great side, and they were coming in. It was great to watch. I used to love watching it. You know, match of the day.
One of my favorite Spurs teams that I saw was the Ozzy Ardiles, when he was managing with Klinsmann and Anderton and Barmby, Dumitrescu, and Teddy Sheringham was in that team. And
Teddy was a phenomenal player. Teddy Sheringham, it was the work he did off the ball. He got the ball. He never lost it. He always gave it to somebody. But then the runs he'd make, and the team was a fairly good team, but he would make 10 runs, and they'd probably see one or two of them. You know, he might get the ball on 1 or 2 of them. But the runs he made, Jude, were unbelievable. In behind the defence, he'd come around like that. He went to United when he was everybody thought he was gone past it. Best player Tottenham ever had was Maradona.
Maradona was the best player anyone ever had.
Yeah, I told my daughter that. I said, Maradona played sports. No, he didn't. He did. Yeah.
I've seen the pictures.
He came out on a charity game at Ozzy Ardiles. He came in, he played. He put on the jersey.
Yeah, that's him and Ozzy were good mates.
Yeah, we were that too. He was phenomenal, wasn't he, Jude?
I love. I mean, I know he had these. He kind of had these demons. Oh God, what a player! And I love his. You know,
But Jude, for them days when you think about back then, geez, we sound like we're 90, you know. But going back out when he was playing, now every day he was walking out that tunnel, he knew he mightn't be walking back off the park. He used to get butchered. The tackles from not only the ankle down, it was the calf down, the back of the legs. He'd be destroyed. The World Cup night '86, they had two people marking him, two unbelievable players marking him, But he would get killed, and if you watch any of them games with Napoli and that, like, he won the league with Napoli, but he didn't really have any other players in the park, But he was a phenomenal player, and that was the thing about going back. George Best the same. You had them back then going on. I'm going out onto the pitch. I'm going to be absolutely mullered. That was the thing. That was
the game back then. It was just
Yeah, where now the pitches they were playing on, the corner flag was the only bit of green you'd have on the pitch. That was the fact, and I did it myself. I played for years, getting out in the park, and sure, a Sunday morning chugging out, you'd be absolutely Baltic. But they were good times. They were good times. But so what's the so we had a word about the sport, and we had a word about your albums. I'll say I'm going to put links up to these, Jude. Anyway, so your new album, then we'll get back to that. We went off the beaten track there. We were talking about your new album, and then we got back. So my apologies, ladies and gents. We'll get back onto it. So
the new album, So actually, you mentioned Noel Bridgman earlier on, and this album was recorded back in 2013. Well, the tracks, the guide tracks. So Noel's playing drums on all the tracks, which is incredible.
Fantastic.
And my father's playing bass, I think, on everything on it as well. So I have the rhythm section from Skid Row, but we're not, unfortunately, thinking back up, we're not playing anything resembling what Skid Row played.
No.
Which was a bit of a lost opportunity.
Are the two guys going, what's going on here now? What's he doing? Why is he taking out that slide? We don't do that.
It was like Noel at the time. He heard a few tracks. I had done like a demo of the tracks, and he heard them, and he's like, I really want to play on those songs. I think I could do, really good work there. So we went to a studio in Stony Batter, Sonic Studios, with Al Cowan, and we put down in an afternoon or whatever. Everything was put down. Noel put down all the drum tracks and some congas and bongos and like percussion. Some timbales on one of the tracks as well. Brilliant. And I never got that record finished where I'm saying, that's the way I like it, until very recently. It took me a lot of, I had to do things a lot of different ways to find the right way to get the most out of and put those great drum tracks and bass tracks.
Yeah.
And feel like I'm actually, doing them justice. Until now, I've kind of wasn't happy with the keys, wasn't happy with some of the guitar work. So, I'm kind of much more comfortable with it. And doing the Last Country album one more last time, I got back to that, and now it's ready to go again. So I'm much happier now with.
So you have the two guys on rhythm. And was there a lap steel in one of the songs?
No, there's actually pedal steel, which I'm not playing, and a harmonica. Just a quick mention about the lads playing pedal steel harmonica. My favorite records of all time was a record by Jeff Walker, and I bought this record in America years ago for $2 in an antique mall, they call them, somewhere in Midwest, and I've loved this record so much. I've listened to it constantly, and for some reason I was looking at YouTube, and there was a slightly different version of one of the songs that was released as a single and became a big hit, Guy Clark's LA Freeway. And I was just reading the comments, and I saw a guy say, "Oh, I played harmonica on that song." And I replied and said, "Oh, are you playing on the whole record? Because I love the whole album." And he said, "Yeah." And whatever way it happened, I just said, "Oh God, I'd love you to play on a couple of my songs on a record I'm working on." And he said, "That's fine." He'd do it for me. And then he put me in touch with the pedal steel player who was playing on that record as well. So the harmonica player is Doc Simons, and the pedal steel player is Patterson Barrett. And both the lads are playing on One More Last Time. So
excellent. It's fabulous, Jude. I actually love it in the car, I just listen away, and that's what I was saying, drinking and thinking. And I hope you don't take me up wrong with this. It's a nice record. It's a nice album, a nice thing to drive. I do a lot of driving with work, and sometimes I'll have it on, and I find it hard to listen to the radio now, so it's just can't find anything really. And maybe John Creedon at night is probably the only sort of I'd listen to.
Well, that's great to hear because, Aidan, to be honest, that album's almost been universally ignored. So,
Yeah,
um, the only person who picked up on it are only well, there's a few radio shows who always, are always great to play, at songs I send them, like Noel Casey, After Midnight Show, and Sean Brophy, and my Brendan Hickey, uh, was actually on Country Time, which is
Country
Saturday
Time.
night with Brian
Yeah,
Lally,
sorry,
and
Brian
Brian.
Lally.
Yeah, Brian took to it, and he had me on doing an interview about some of my favorite records, and he's played a few songs from the records. So I was wondering, is anyone just gonna, give it? It might have went out to 100 different radio shows. I might have got 5 or 6 who've actually played it. Ronan Gallagher has also played it. Ronan's
Yeah,
from Mohill, great singer songwriter from just down the road from here. He's played it a few times on his radio show as well. Actually met Ronan in the supermarket yesterday by accident.
that's very good. Yeah,
Mention Ronan.
yeah,
He's a
brilliant.
great
Yeah.
guy and a great
But
great
like
performer.
yeah, it's very surprising to me. We won't go into some of the stuff nowadays that it's out there on the radio. Look, it is what it is. But
The
fair
kids
play
love
to
it.
them all.
That's what
Yeah,
counts.
fair play to them. That's all that counts. As I said, we're getting old. I think that could be it. The next 5 years, then, Jude. What's the plan? I don't want to again throw you in the deep end. So what's the sort of say if you're looking 5, 10 years time? Where do you see it bringing you?
Well, musically, I know what the next record I want to make is. It's just a matter of getting in and doing it. It's another kind of country record, but maybe taking some of the songs recorded with the so-called and just putting them in a slightly different setting. And I want to do I had some jazz recordings from maybe 15 years ago that I want
Yeah.
to go and do a bit of work on it and improve those a bit. So those are the next 2 things I have in mind. But other than that, I don't know. I'd like to play more
What about
gigs.
maybe trad? What about trad, Jude? Would you go down that road?
You never know. I might go bluegrass, trad, something like
Bluegrass, oh, jeez, I love bluegrass.
yeah.
some great stuff. So that's got to be. So your new album's got to be coming out. When are we going to see that, Jude?
In maybe 2 months, and I think about 6 weeks to 2 months. I just mentioned that. So the pedal steel player on One More Last Time, Patterson Barron. But on this new album, I brought in. There's a pedal steel player who lives up in Kinloch. I think he's from the Ballymena around that direction originally. Richard Nelson. And I know we said earlier on that my music's not really country and Irish, but Richard has played on every country and Irish record
Country and Irish.
that was ever made. Anytime you see Opry with Daniel on Tina G, that's
Yeah.
Richard. Incredible player, like
Yeah.
world class.
Isn't it a beautiful instrument, Jude?
Yeah,
It's a beautiful instrument. But the thing about it is, it's so country. It's so country. I'm not going to class myself as a musician, but that's what you do. I love looking at drummers and guitarists and whatever, and that's what I look at many times. I've seen you play. I don't know how many times over the years, and just sort of sit looking. I think you're being very humble, as I said, which is always a nice trait, Jude. It's always a lovely trait. So, what do you think is we're gonna wrap it up fairly soon. I don't want to take up more of your time. What would you put down as your biggest achievement today?
Oh God,
there you go. Now
I have no idea. I haven't really. I've just been as I don't know, just getting.
What are you most proud
finished.
of if you look back at the record? Like, I'd say finishing this next one, it will be you'd be very proud with, especially who you had playing on it.
Yeah. So I think this next record is the
Getting
one.
that done.
Yeah, getting any record done is a big achievement. So
huge achievement.
Getting the so-called out around the world, and this record, which I think is, it's a record that I should have. I just feel like it's been there for years, and I've been holding it back just by not being able to be as great as the guys who are playing on it. But I'm getting closer all the time. Not there, but I'm slowly getting there. So I think getting this record out will be the biggest achievement so far.
And so, what's the story with staying in Ireland in this weather when Greece is so fabulous, Jude? There's another thing.
The weather up here has been great the last few days, and the summer up here was incredible. But yeah, coming into in Greece,
over there, it can be too warm.
You can in the August, July, but you get great weather in October, November, even into December. So but the roughest month now is August.
Yeah.
But it's incredible over there. The food and the the cold coffee, the Freddo espressos.
Yeah. It's beautiful. The food. I was speaking to Hazel Catherine Larkin. She's an author. She was on the show the other day, and we were talking about food. And she was actually in Malaysia. She lived there for 10 years, but she was talking about the food. Everything's tasty, isn't it, Jude? It's like it's in Greece. Everything they put out a piece of lettuce. It just seems that bit nicer,
Yeah, I love Greek salad. There's a joke in Greece that four Germans, and I don't want to make Germans are great people, but four Germans go into a Greek taverna and order a salad, but the portions in Greece are very, very large for everything you want to get. So a single Greek salad could feed like a family of 8 or something.
Love that. So Jude, listen, it's been fabulous. One last thing, if you're a message to anybody out there coming out and starting in the music business or starting out in life, what would you say to them?
Go for it and don't think too much about it.
It's all about being happy, isn't it, Jude?
It's all about being happy, and it's all about getting to the all-night garage after the gig.
Yeah, it's all like
especially the ones you can walk
as well.
Ones you could walk into, not the hatch jobs. I didn't like the hatch.
Oh, the hatch jobs are like the one in Athlone there. I think it's bigger now than the McDonald's and all beside it. But back in the day, it wasn't. But there was a hatch, and the guy's name was Kieran. I remember we used to come back from Galway. There was one outside. It wasn't a Mount Rat or somewhere like that, was it?
Mount Rat.
Was it Mount Rat or somewhere?
Oh God,
I can't think about it.
You got me there. I remember we used to stop at Mount Rat, but in the daytime on the way down to Limerick or Killarney. There was Boris and Ossory.
Boris and Ossory. There was a little one there, garage.
Not Boris and Ossory,
Urlingford. Jude, listen, it's been fabulous. I really enjoyed it. And folks, I'm going to put up links. You'll see them there. And Jude, listen, best of luck with the album, and give us a shout when it's on, and we'll get you on again, and we'll have a chat about it. As it's always good to say to talk to you, my friend, and say hi to all the family. And look, we'll link up soon. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jude Shields, and look, we'll catch you soon, Jude. We'll catch you soon.
Thanks very much for having me on, Aidan. Thanks for the invite. We talk again soon.
Talk again soon, my friend. Best of luck.
Right.
And
thank you.
Thanks, Jude. Enjoyed that chat with Jude, folks. I really enjoyed it. If you want to catch out any information on Jude, check out the links below. His new album launch and any gigs he may be doing. Folks, we'll see you on the other side. Thank you.